Greetings, young fledglings of Vodar. Many years ago, I, your Kaidon, transmitted the origins of the Arbiters of old and their glorious sagas that have shaped the Sangheili people into what we are now. Recently, however, I have discovered new accounts of the ancient title from the dormant catacombs of Vodar Keep and records recovered from High Charity's debris field over Delta Halo by way of a Yonhead smuggler. It would seem that the record of punished deeds was deliberately tampered, withheld, in order to keep the elites from discovering what the Sanshum would so desperately seek to hide. Well, the time has come to unveil those secrets, to learn more about the past so that it may guide our future. And what better way of rediscovering our proud warrior legacy than that of the Arbiters of old? With that, let us begin. Listen well. From the long-venerated sagas of Sangheili history, the Arbiter was a position of unmatched power and authority, wielded by those who had proven their worth in combat, and to whom was granted the weighty responsibility of governing our people. The Arbiter is a role of immense significance that has shaped the course of the Sangheili over the ages. In ancient times, Arbiters were Judge King warriors who ruled over their regions and keeps, inspiring loyalty and service both in the great halls of Sanghelios, as well as on the battlefield. They were the leaders of the clans, masters of warfare, and the pinnacle of our society. Though we have not always been so fortunate to have such great warriors to lead us, we've had cowards and fools as well, our tyrants and our madmen. And Irsu Labat was one of the most terrible tyrants in the long line of the Arbiter Judge Kings. He reigned over the continent of Kiro centuries before the Sangheili became a spacefaring species. He ruled with an iron hand and crushed anyone who dared oppose him. But his rule would not go unchallenged. The first swords of Sanghelios rallied together as a united brotherhood of Kaidons, sworn to overthrow this mad Arbiter and free the region from his oppressive regime. From then on, Irsu Labat would be remembered only as the Tyrant of Kiro. Ironic, is it not? The swords were created to oppose an Arbiter, and yet now, this Brotherhood's title would be embraced by another, one who seeks to reunify Sanghelios under a single banner. But I suppose I'm getting ahead of myself. For centuries to come, despite those who would blemish this sacred mantle, the Arbiters would continue to be a symbol of Sangheili battle prowess, even as our people reached for the stars and established tithe worlds. One of those worlds would shift the course of our destiny forever. The harsh world of Olgathon, where we would discover the Sanshum. When they revealed their true purpose in desecrating our sacred Forerunner artifacts, the great Arbiter, Vima Togad, responded accordingly and led our people against the Serpent Necks at the desecration of Olgathon, a bloody and baleful conflict that would spark the War of Beginnings. a war that would lead to the formation of the Covenant hegemony. Togod's intimidating presence and his vengeful ferocity in battle would earn him the epithet Prophet's Bane. It would ultimately lead the Sanshum's desire to retain the title of Arbiter as a warrior position of high honor in the early ages of the newly formed Covenant. From then on, the Arbiters would lead the Sangheili as they commanded the Covenant's military forces in accordance with the Writ of Union, as we join together with the Prophets in our shared mission to find the sacred rings. That holy path would take us to the gas giant of Tay, the homeworld of the Legolo. After discovering these strange species of worms, the Prophets sent an Arbiter to the Rings of Tay, where this mysterious species had devoured and desecrated a Forerunner orbital. For a full year, Jet Lakutami journeyed across the surface of nearby debris, and one of the local moons, tasked with discovering the true nature and capabilities of the Legolo. He ultimately pacified the species' resistance, known to our history today as the taming of the Legolo, leading to their integration into the Covenant. For thousands of cycles, the Arbiters were the very will of the Prophets, bringing other races into the fold and finding more and more sacred relics to prepare our holy covenant for the great journey. However, 400 years ago, all that would change. An Arbiter, Fal Chavami, challenged the High Prophet of Solemnity, an act of dissent that would lead to the death of his beloved mate, Han, and a vicious and bloody duel with the Hierarch's own enforcer, Haka Sukari. Fal stood for the honor of the Sangheili people, while Haka fought only for his own power and status. In the end, not only would both warriors die, but the mantle of the Arbiter would now be converted into a badge of shame, twisted by the Sanshum to fulfill their own machinations. It was here that the Hierarchs would establish the line of immaculate succession. From then on, the High Prophet would bestow this once glorious title on a Sangheili warrior seeking redemption. A redemption they would earn by embarking on holy suicide missions for the benefit and glory of the Empire. Contemporary Arbiters within the Covenant hegemony were selected by the Hierarchs, and specifically called upon during an hour of extreme need or to dispense with any troublesome dissident. Each of these Arbiters would be sent on hopeless missions to not only repay the Empire for their own transgressions, but to earn forgiveness for their sins and the reinstatement of their family's honor upon their deaths. Within the Covenant archives that this Yunhet Nishum has brought me, records detail the exploit of dozens of these incredible Sangheili warriors who served our holy alliance with this unparalleled distinction. And at the time of the Covenant's downfall, there had been 18 Arbiters within this line. The fiercest of these was Heki Gibadi, who brought an end to the Ungoid Rebellion. When the Grunts' feud with the Kigyar erupted into full-scale civil war within the streets of High Charity, their sheer numbers and relentless tenacity required a shift of response from the Covenant's leadership. And so the Hierarchs turned once more to an Arbiter. Rather than quell the rebellion within High Charity alone, Gibadi led a fleet to the Ungoi homeworld delivering untold devastation on the population of Balaho. Unable to endure the brutal genocide of their own people, the Ungoi immediately ceased their short-lived rebellion. And yet, despite the bloodshed these grunts inflicted upon the sacred city, the sheer will and resolve of the Ungoi impressed Heki and the Sangheili within high charity. And so, the Ungois were rewarded for their bravery with a proper place within the Covenant's military ranks. Yet, while Heki Gibadi held the Covenant together as the Rebellion Queller, the 17th Arbiter within the line of Immaculate Succession was among its worst conscripts. His name was Ripa Moramee. He was a warlord thrall who served the Ministry of Preservation for years, decisively overthrowing rebellions from both Ungoi and Kigyar. But when his zeal turned to ambition and moved against his own Kaidon on Malarok, he was imprisoned for his own sedition. The Prophet of Regret intervened, however, granting Moramee the title of Arbiter, where he would serve the hierarchs by directing the War of Beginnings during the invasion of the newly discovered human world of Harvest, and seizing whatever treasures it held. Leading the fleet of glorious interdiction, Moramee located a Forerunner relic site that would eventually lead them to Trove, a shield world of the ancients, harboring an entire fleet of ancient vessels. Vessels that would have brought an end to the war swiftly and decisively. Under Regret's command, Moramee seized control of the world, but was forced to fend off attacks from a human ship. When they attempted to destroy Trove with an improvised weapon, Moramee staged an assault, but while boasting of his coming triumph, he was struck down by a human. His body was forever lost, along with the Forerunner armada that would have saw an end to the War of Annihilation, when the humans destroyed the Shield World. And for that, I thank Urs, for the savage Arbiter of Malarok was a disgrace to all Sangheili, and didn't deserve to wear the mantle of the Arbiter, let alone see such a terrible victory unfold. The only one worthy of the Arbiter title is Nakai Vodar, the last of the line of Immaculate Succession, and the leader of the Swords of Sangheili. Once a devoted Covenant warrior, Nakai Vodar pursued a human vessel during the invasion of Reach, a fateful pursuit that would lead him to the first sacred ring. But following the destruction of Alpha Halo at the hands of the demon, known only as the Master Chief among the humans, Supreme Commander Vodar was blamed for the loss of this sacred relic, and was branded a heretic by the High Council. In lieu of execution, the hierarchs granted him the title of Arbiter, tasking him with the elimination of a band of heretics, and then retrieving the sacred icon of Delta Halo. When he was eventually betrayed by the prophets, the Arbiter learned the truth about Halo, setting into motion a tenuous alliance with the humans, as the Covenant was torn apart during the Great Schism. Vodar and the demon would hunt down and kill the Prophet of Truth, finally ending the Covenant. In the years that followed, the Arbiter forged a stronger alliance with the humans, folding the keeps of our homeworld together under the banner of the Swords of Sangheili. And despite the bloody civil war that has ravaged our world for years, A conflict now known only as the Blooding Years. The destruction of Indama's foul resurgent covenant signals a new era for the Sangheili. But now, with the apparition and her foul guardians at our doorstep, I fear that our new era will be short-lived. However, I am told the Arbiter will soon meet with our human allies to free our world once again. This time on the world of Umba, known to the humans as Netherop. Whatever Vadam and this Olympia Vale discover, I hope it brings an end to the created and usher in a new dawn for the Sangheili people, under the watchful eye of the Arbiters once again.